The first message arrived at 4:11 a.m. No number, no name, no text, just a photograph. At first I thought somebody had sent it by mistake. The image was dark, blurry, poorly lit. A man sleeping in bed beneath a gray blanket, one arm hanging over the edge of the mattress. I stared at it for several seconds before realizing the man was me. Every trace of sleep vanished instantly. I sat upright so fast I nearly dropped my phone. The photograph had been taken inside my apartment, while I was asleep, and the angle was wrong. That was the first thing that truly scared me. It wasn't taken from the doorway, or from across the room. It had been taken from beside the bed, close enough that whoever held the camera could have reached out and touched my face. I zoomed in, then again, looking for something, anything, evidence of editing, a joke, a mistake, but there wasn't one. Same bedroom, same lamp, same books on the nightstand, same t-shirt I'd fallen asleep wearing. Then I noticed the timestamp, 4:03 a.m., 8 minutes earlier. My stomach dropped, because that meant whoever took the photograph could still be nearby. Maybe still inside the building, maybe still inside the apartment. I jumped out of bed. Every light came on. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, closet, nothing, nobody. Yet something felt wrong immediately. Not because I found evidence of an intruder, because I found evidence that one had been there. The front door security chain hung loose, unlocked. I stared at it. I knew I'd locked it. Checking locks had become a ritual after the divorce. Front door, windows, stove, repeat. Every night. The routine wasn't about safety anymore. It was about certainty. Living alone changes the way your brain works. Especially after 40. Especially after someone leaves you with a sentence they refuse to explain. I don't feel safe around you anymore. Claire said that during our final argument. I asked what she meant. She never answered. 11 months later, I still heard those words sometimes. Usually at night. Usually when the apartment felt too quiet. I checked every room twice. Then a third time with a baseball bat. Nobody. No signs of forced entry. No open windows. Nothing stolen. Nothing moved. Only the photograph. At 5:12 a.m., 2 police officers arrived. The younger one looked half asleep. The older officer studied the photo for a long time. Longer than I expected. Finally, he handed my phone back. You sure nobody else has a key? My ex-wife might have an old copy. He nodded slowly, then asked, have you ever sleepwalked? The question irritated me. No, but he didn't look convinced. After they left, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Sleepwalking. Maybe that would explain the unlocked chain. Maybe I'd wandered around the apartment without remembering. Maybe I'd taken the photo myself somehow. Ridiculous. But it felt less ridiculous than someone standing beside my bed while I slept. Around noon, another message arrived. This time it was a video. 12 seconds long. Security camera footage. Black and white. I pressed play. The camera overlooked the hallway outside my apartment. I watched myself walk toward my door, carrying groceries. Nothing unusual. Then I noticed someone standing at the far end of the hallway, watching me. Tall, motionless, hood pulled low over his face. I never saw him that night. Yet there he was, standing perfectly still, waiting. The video ended. A text appeared underneath. You let him in. I stared at the words. What did that even mean? I replayed the footage 5 times. The hooded man never moved, never shifted, never looked away. Just stood there, patient, like somebody waiting for a train that was guaranteed to arrive. I contacted building management immediately. That's when everything became worse. The hallway camera hadn't worked in 6 months. Water damage. Entire system disconnected. According to management, that footage could not exist. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain had nowhere else to go. The feeling was familiar, like standing on a staircase and discovering the next step isn't there. That night I barely slept. Every sound seemed louder than normal. Pipes, elevator cables, footsteps overhead. At 2:26 a.m. someone knocked on my door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Nobody visits me. Nobody. Not anymore. The knocks came again. 3 more. Deliberate. Patient. I approached the door carefully and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but something was taped to the door. A photograph. I opened the door immediately. Nothing. No footsteps. No elevator movement. Only silence. The photograph showed me sitting in my car earlier that day, taken through the windshield, close enough that the photographer had been standing directly in front of the vehicle. Written across the bottom. You still don't remember. My pulse quickened. Remember what? I looked closer. The image quality seemed strange. Distorted somehow, like it had been copied over and over again. Then I noticed the reflection in the rearview mirror. Someone sat in the back seat. At first I assumed it was a trick of light. Then I zoomed in. The figure looked exactly like me. Not identical. Older. Thinner. But unmistakably me. And unlike the version in the driver's seat, the man in the back was smiling. I wasn't. I must have stared at the newspaper clipping for 10 minutes. Maybe longer. People walked past me. Cars moved through the parking lot. The waitress kept asking if I was okay. I barely heard any of it. All I could see were the two photographs. Mine. And the boy beside me. The caption beneath them read, "Local boy still missing after camping incident. October 14th, 1998. I was 9 years old. The other boy looked familiar. Not familiar in the normal way. More like a word sitting on the tip of your tongue. Something you almost remember. Something that hurts when you try. Caleb." I read the name again. Nothing. No face. No memories. No stories. No trace of him anywhere inside my head. That should have been impossible. A missing child isn't something you forget, especially if you're standing beside him in the newspaper photograph. Yet somehow I had. My phone vibrated. Unknown sender. One message. "He remembered before you did." I looked up immediately. The hooded man was gone. Only empty sidewalk remained. For some reason that frightened me more than seeing him. Because it meant he wanted me to find the clipping. This wasn't random. It was planned. Every photograph. Every message. Every step. Someone was leading me somewhere. The question was why. 3 hours later, I pulled into my mother's driveway. I hadn't called ahead. The moment she opened the front door, I knew something was wrong. Not because of what she said. Because of what she saw. The newspaper clipping. The instant her eyes landed on it, she stopped breathing. Just for a second. But I saw it. The reaction people have when a nightmare walks back into the room. "Where did you get that?" No hello. No hug. No questions about my drive. Just that. I held up the clipping. "You tell me." She stared at it. Then at me. Then back at the clipping. And suddenly she looked 20 years older. "Come inside." The way she said it made me uneasy. Not welcoming. Urgent. Like she didn't want the neighbors seeing what I was holding. We sat in the kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd eaten breakfast before school. The same kitchen where Dad used to drink coffee every morning. The same kitchen where nothing had ever felt dangerous. Now it felt different. Smaller. Too quiet. Mom kept looking toward the windows. Toward the backyard. Toward the trees. Anywhere except at me. Finally, I slid the clipping across the table. "Who is Caleb?" The question hung in the room. She didn't answer. "Mom." Still nothing. Then she whispered. I thought this was over. A chill ran through me. What was over? No response. Only silence. The kind of silence people use when the truth is standing right behind them. I leaned forward. "Who is he?" Mom rubbed her hands together. A nervous habit she'd had my entire life. But I'd never seen it this bad. Finally she spoke. "Your cousin." The answer arrived too quickly. Too rehearsed. Like she'd been preparing it for years. "Cousin." She nodded. "What happened to him?" Silence again. Longer this time. Then, he disappeared. My chest tightened. "That's all." "No." The word escaped before she could stop it. I noticed immediately. "No what?" She looked toward the back window. The trees beyond the yard swayed in the wind. For some reason, she seemed afraid of them. Then she whispered. "Your father said Caleb came back." The room went completely still. I laughed once. A short, nervous laugh. Because there wasn't any other response. "What does that mean?" Mom didn't answer. Instead, she asked a question. One strange question. One question that instantly made my skin crawl. "Danny." She swallowed. "Do you remember the lake?" The moment she said it, something moved inside my head. Not a memory. Not yet. A sensation. Cold water. Wet shoes. Flashlight beams. And somewhere very far away. 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 I nearly dropped my coffee mug. The sound wasn't real. I knew it wasn't. Yet I heard it anyway. Deep inside my memory. Waiting. The mug rattled against the table. Mom stared at me. Terrified. Because she knew exactly what I'd just remembered. And whatever happened at that lake. She had spent 20 years praying I never would. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Rain. Wet soil. Pine trees. The scent drifted through the cracked garage window while my mother stood frozen beside the car. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. 3 slow knocks echoed from inside the house. Knock. 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 Not loud. Not violent. Patient. Like whoever made the sound knew we weren't leaving yet. My mother's face had gone completely white. I'd never seen her look afraid before. Not truly afraid. When Dad died, she cried. When Claire left, she worried. But this was different. This was survival-level fear. The kind of fear people carry for years. "Danny," she whispered. "We need to go." I looked toward the side door, leading back into the house. The knocking had stopped. The silence felt worse. Because silence meant waiting. Then my phone vibrated. Unknown sender. Another photograph. Taken less than a minute earlier. My stomach dropped. The image showed the kitchen. My mother's kitchen. The exact room we'd left moments ago. The photograph had been taken from inside the house. Facing the back door. Facing us. I zoomed in. At first I didn't notice anything strange. Then I saw the reflection in the microwave. A figure standing behind the photographer. Tall. Motionless. Watching. The message beneath the image contained only 4 words. "He knows you looked." I felt suddenly cold. Not physically. Deep inside. The kind of cold that arrives before panic. "Mom." My voice sounded weak. She didn't ask what the message said. Instead she asked, "Did he send another photo?" I stared at her. The question hit harder than it should have. Not who. Not what photo. She already knew. How long has this been happening? She closed her eyes. For a moment I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, since the lake. The lake. There was again. Always the lake. Every strange memory. Every hidden photograph. Every nightmare. Everything led back there. Before I could ask another question, the garage lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then died completely. Darkness swallowed the room. My mother's breathing quickened immediately. No. Somewhere inside the house, a floorboard creaked. Slowly. Deliberately. A sound that shouldn't have been possible. Nobody had opened the connecting door. Nobody had entered. Yet something was moving through the house. The creak came again. Closer. Another step. Then another. My phone screen illuminated automatically. No notification. No message. Just light. I looked down. A photograph filled the display. Not a new one. An old one. A childhood photograph. Me standing beside a lake. The image shook slightly in my hand. Because this time there was no missing face. No scratches. No damage. The second boy was visible. Caleb. For the first time. And he wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking behind the photographer. His expression wasn't happy. It wasn't neutral. It was fear. Pure fear. As though he'd seen something standing in the trees. Something nobody else noticed. Then another image appeared. And another. And another. My phone began cycling through photographs automatically. Hundreds of them. Childhood. School. Family gatherings. Birthdays. Every image contained the same thing. Something standing in the background. A shadow. A figure. A person. Always distant. Always watching. My pulse hammered in my ears. No, that wasn't possible. Some photographs were decades old. Some were taken in different states. Different years. Different seasons. Yet the figure appeared in all of them. The same height. The same posture. The same stillness. Watching. Waiting. My mother started crying quietly. She wasn't looking at the photos. She was looking at me. That terrified me more than anything. Because she wasn't afraid of the figure anymore. She was afraid of what I was starting to remember. Then the final photograph appeared. And everything inside me stopped. It showed the campsite. October 1998. Night. The timestamp glowed in the corner. 11:47 p.m. The image quality was terrible. But I could still make out 3 figures standing near the shoreline. My father. Caleb. And me. Only. There should have been 3 people. Instead there were 4. A 4th figure stood knee-deep in the water. Watching us. The photograph ended there. No explanation. No message. Only one final line appeared across the screen. You were never the one who forgot. I couldn't stop staring at the photograph. 4 figures. My father. Caleb. Me. And something standing in the water. For a long time nobody spoke. Not me. Not my mother. Not even the thing that had been sending the photographs. Outside. Rain tapped softly against the garage roof. Inside. The silence felt unbearable. Then my phone buzzed one final time. Unknown sender. One message. Come back to the lake. Nothing else. No threats. No explanation. Just those 4 words. I looked at my mother. She already knew where I was going. Don't, she whispered. But her voice lacked conviction. because deep down she understood something I was only beginning to realize. This had never been about escaping. It was about remembering. 2 hours later, I stood at the edge of Lake Mercer. The rain had stopped. Clouds drifted slowly across the moon. The lake looked exactly like it did in my dreams. Black water, still surface, dark trees surrounding it on every side. For 20 years I'd seen this place while sleeping. Now I finally understood why. My phone vibrated again. A new photograph, taken from the shoreline, taken in 1998. The camping trip. The image showed me and Caleb standing near the water, both staring toward something just outside the frame. I took a step forward, then another, and suddenly, the memory returned. Not fragments, not flashes, everything. The voice calling from the trees, the sound of water moving, Caleb following it first, both of us believing it was my father, then seeing the figure standing by the lake, wearing Dad's face, smiling, waiting. I remembered Caleb stopping. I remembered him saying, "That's not Uncle Mike." Then the figure looked at me, only me, and spoke. "Danny." Perfect. My father's voice, my father's face, my father's smile, except none of it was real. Caleb grabbed my arm, told me to run. I didn't. I stepped closer, and that's when it happened. The thing in the water changed. Not slowly. Instantly. 1 second it looked like Dad. The next, it looked like me. A perfect copy. 9 years old, standing knee-deep in black water, smiling. My stomach twisted, because I finally remembered the part I'd forgotten. The part nobody ever knew. Caleb didn't disappear first. I did. I walked into the lake, straight toward it. The water swallowed me whole. Darkness. Cold. Silence. Then nothing. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at camp. Dry. Alive. Safe. Except Caleb was gone, and Dad was staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. Because he knew. He knew the boy who returned wasn't the boy who left. Tears filled my eyes. Not because I was scared. Because for 20 years I believed my father stopped loving me. Now I understood the truth. He was terrified. Not of me. Of what followed me home. I dropped to my knees beside the shoreline. The memories kept coming. Dad burning photographs. Dad watching me while he thought I was asleep. Dad making notes in secret journals. Trying desperately to figure out whether his son was still inside me. And finally, Dad returning here years later. Alone. Looking for answers. The world blurred. I looked out across the lake. The water remained perfectly still. Then I noticed something. A reflection. Not my reflection. Someone standing behind me. I turned. The hooded man stood among the trees. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. I already knew who he was. The older version of me. The one from the photographs. The one who'd been trying to lead me here. "You remembered," he said quietly. I nodded. "What are you?" His expression softened. The part that survived. The answer made sense immediately. Not a ghost. Not a double. A memory. Everything that remained of the real boy who vanished that night. I looked back toward the water. What happens now? The older me stared at the lake, then said something that took me a moment to understand. It only survives if someone keeps forgetting. The wind moved across the surface. For the first time in 20 years, the lake rippled. And suddenly I knew what had to be done. All the missing memories. All the erased people. Caleb. Dad. The others. It fed on absence. On forgotten things. Every lie. Every missing piece. Every buried truth. I stepped into the water. The cold was immediate. Familiar. The same cold I'd felt my entire life without understanding why. The lake deepened around me. Knees. Waist. Chest. Behind me, the older version of myself didn't move. He simply watched. Waiting. Just like he always had. The water reached my shoulders. Then my neck. And beneath the surface, something moved. A shape. Ancient. Watching. The same thing that had waited here for decades. The same thing that had stolen faces. Stolen memories. Stolen lives. It rose slowly from the darkness below. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. Because now I knew its secret. It didn't take people. People gave themselves away. One forgotten memory at a time. I closed my eyes. And remembered Caleb. Completely. His laugh. His voice. His face. Every detail. Then Dad. Then Emily. Then every missing piece. Every truth. Every loss. Nothing hidden. Nothing erased. The lake trembled violently. The darkness beneath me began to break apart. Like smoke dissolving underwater. A sound echoed through the night. Not a scream, not a roar. Something older. Something dying. When I opened my eyes again, the water was calm. The presence was gone. The weight I'd carried my entire life was gone too. I turned toward the shore. The hooded man had disappeared. Only footprints remained in the mud, leading away from the lake, then ending abruptly, as if he had finally stopped existing. I stood there until sunrise, watching lights spread across the water. For the first time in 20 years, I remembered everything. And for the first time in 20 years, I felt like myself. Months later, I returned to Lake Mercer one final time. The campsite had long since vanished. Nature reclaimed most of it. The lake looked ordinary now, almost peaceful. Before leaving, I placed a small photograph beside the shore, the only surviving picture of Caleb. Then I turned away. Halfway back to my car, my phone vibrated. One new message. No number, no sender, just a photograph, taken moments earlier. A picture of me standing beside the lake. Walking away, I stared at it for a long time, then looked carefully at the water in the background. At first, it seemed empty. Then I noticed a second figure standing far out in the lake, watching, waiting, smiling. The message underneath contained only 3 words. Remember me too.